Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cams rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome back to Hank's Think Tank. Guess what? Mark Hogan's on my left.
Howdy.
So he's good, he's back.
Buckets of howdiness all over
There
you.
you go. We got a great gift. We got a great guest for you here this evening. I got Joe DeHoyos. Now Joe invited me on his podcast.
That was a great show, man.
Beyond the Woodline. And you know, Joe's a paranormal guy, and also he has a lot of people on that talk about things like Bigfoot, stuff like that. Interesting. If you get a chance to check out the show, look it up. It's on YouTube. It's called Beyond the Woodline. It's a great podcast. He does a good job in production, so it's worth the watch. His shows are about an hour long. And, yeah, kick back, relax, get some popcorn, beer, whatever it is you partake in, and check it out. Joe, good to have you, man. What's going on?
Man, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate, you letting me come on here and, talk about the...
Yeah, good to meet you, man. I'm glad you made time to come on out.
Yeah, man, talk about all my weird... my little weird stories and my little weird life that I have.
Yeah, I think everybody's probably got a little weird story. Some people are probably afraid to talk about them.
Yeah, that's pretty much a common theme. I find that when people talk about whether it's paranormal, Bigfoot,
Right.
UFOs, aliens,
Right.
even like psychic mediums, people don't talk about that stuff. They're kind of taking it back to it, I guess.
Hey, before we get rolling real good, I got a little announcement to make.
Okay.
Today is December the 11th, 2021, which everybody knows, should know that means in 2 days, Hank has a birthday. December 13th.
Oh, wow.
This guy right here is going to turn how old?
Old.
Do we want to say it out loud?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to be 59.
I got you a little something, man.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Congratulations on the anniversary of your hatching. There you go.
My chicken appreciates that. All right, I'm going to need a knife or something. I got it.
Well,
You're going to need a what?
Man.
You're going to need a what?
A knife. Okay,
A
so
knife?
listen, guys. Always carry a Swiss Army knife with you. That way when you get a present from somebody,
You
can,
call that a knife?
it's a knife. You
That
can
ain't a knife.
easily open it up. Oh, wow.
That's a knife.
Okay.
You did not know what that was.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
So now I've got a brand new knife to open up my gifts with.
Now, this is important, too, though, because superstition has it that it's very bad luck to gift someone a knife. So if you look on the handle there, you'll notice a penny is taped to the handle.
Right.
Okay. Why do you do that?
Give me that penny, and you have effectively paid for the knife, and so no bad luck involved.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And that
Yeah.
way the knife doesn't cut the friendship.
That's exactly what I
Huh.
heard, too. Thank you.
Well, that's cool.
Now, that is your purchase
All right,
knife.
and I bought this
It's
knife
a
with
brand new tactical knife.
So, you want to explain this thing to me and maybe show it off a little bit?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
So this is a tactical knife made in probably China, but it's brand new.
Cool.
Southern China, they got the badasses.
Southern China.
And it's got all the nylon and the plastic stuff.
Damn.
This has the log cutting
Okay.
top here.
Yeah. I got you.
Throat cutting, log cutting, whatever needs cutting.
I like it.
And out here on the Ponderosa or the Hankarosa property out here, you probably run into all kind of badgers and rogue porcupines that you may have to defend yourself with. But
Bigfoot.
yeah,
There you
Bigfoot,
go.
Bigfoot, medium foot, whatever foot it takes. So I know you're getting up there in years, and it's a little tougher to go hand to hand with a lot of those things.
Hey, it's going to have to happen. Society's going to fall apart soon, and we're all going to need a big knife.
Nice sheath,
Yeah.
all kind of lanyards and stuff to tie it on you.
Cool.
And there's a little something else in that bag too that you probably
I
did
missed
not
it.
see.
I didn't see it. It is
$1,000 bill.
Happy
Don't
birthday.
get his hopes up.
Number 59 from Hark Mogan, Sidekick.
Occupation sidekick.
That's it. All right. It's an envelope, y'all.
It's an envelope
And
full
in
of
that envelope is, damn,
a 1962
wow.
50-cent piece.
And it's a silver 50-cent piece,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
A 1962 silver 50-cent piece.
Benjamin Franklin was struck on the front of those
Cool.
in that year, and he was a real smart guy.
I wonder if he was always bald.
Just on the front. All his hair was in the back. He was the original hippie.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. He had all kind of stuff that was quotable, and being one of the founding fathers, he was a real wise guy. So a penny saved is a penny earned. That was his.
Well, that's a really nice gift, man. Both the knife and the silver token. That's cool, man. I like
Well,
it.
it's not a token. That is a 50-cent piece.
It's still a token.
Yeah, it's worth about $7.
Oh,
Probably.
yeah. It's awesome. I'll add it to my collection.
There you go.
And as a fact of business, this is the beginning of my collection.
There you go.
So there you go. Far out. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Happy birthday, dude.
Thanks, man. 59. My God. I never thought. I mean, geez.
Oh, wait till next year.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, mentally, I still feel like I'm 23.
Yeah. Same here.
So, but it's often that that I realize when I'm jumping or when I'm trying to do something that I shouldn't be doing.
Or
that-
bending down to pick up a 50-cent piece.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
that worth 50 cents?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And then all of a sudden you realize you're 59 again.
Yeah. So happy birthday, man.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, happy birthday, brother.
Thanks, man. Okay, so Joe, on when I was on your show, we talked a little bit about everything about paranormal stuff. What I really wanted to kind of touch upon, if we could, because I don't think we covered too much, was UFOs or UAPs.
Right.
Now I got another guy that, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head today.
UMP?
But UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they changed it because UFO had just a bad connotation to it. Everybody had already worn it out, and everybody equated if you were into UFOs with you being, kind of,
Okay.
So UAPs are just the new term for it, right? Am I right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. So had another guy that was interested in coming on the show, and he was letting me know that there has been some legislation that has been presented to Congress. And I don't have that information in front of me. I think it's the Rubio Amendment, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And it's supposed to be some legislation that would make the government more transparent on what they've done with UAPs or UFOs in the past. And I guess we'd have access to that information finally. You know anything about that?
Yeah. A lot of that information is going to be redacted. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
some of the information that they already released, it's got all those black marks through everything.
Yeah,
So-
but they're going to leave all the ifs, ands, twos, and fours.
Right. So
Like
they're still going to be very
kindergarten book.
very vague about what they release, at least for now.
Yeah.
So I guess at some level, at least they're kind of acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And they have released some footage, like the TikTok video and
Yeah, the Tic Tac
and the
thing
one
was
with-
something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the TikTok and I don't want to say TikTok. I guess because TikTok.
Because TikTok's badass.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
TikTok.
what was Tic Tac?
It was just little. Well, I won't say little, but it looked like a Tic Tac.
Okay.
The
Basically.
shape and
pill
and color.
kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
But it was actually quite large, and it was Fravor, who he is a pilot, and he's also high up in the Navy, and he came across this thing. It ended up in his sights and all that, and it started doing some really weird maneuvers.
Yeah.
I mean, they said that it went from 50,000 feet in altitude to 1 foot in less than a second, and then it disappeared off the radar and appeared at their what's that spot called? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but
At their I think it's called
miles and miles.
It's
away.
like a comp spot. It's like the place where they were supposed to meet, but nobody had said anything on radio or nothing. So how did this thing know where they were going to be? And then it was there, and it was doing weird maneuvers above the ocean surface, and then I think it even went into the water and just disappeared.
Okay.
So Tic Tac, you can see it on YouTube. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
Look for Tic Tac.
and that was one of the things that the government released recently.
Right.
And I think there was another one too, but I don't
Yeah.
remember what it was.
Yeah. That was actually the Pentagon that released that.
Tic Tac?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
The second one was another one, but the one they were chasing was more of a saucer shape.
Yeah.
And that sucker was making all kind of maneuvers that,
Right.
that if we tried that stuff, our aircraft would fall apart.
Yeah, and we die
Yeah,
inside.
and we would die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Joe Rogan had Bob Lazar
Right.
on his podcast, and And Bob Lazar talked about the way that these propulsion systems work is that they create a field of anti-gravity around them. So they're literally in their own universe,
Right.
if you can figure that.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're moving back and forth, 10 miles in a second, just they said it was like a ping pong ball in a glass.
Mm-hmm.
When they're moving like that kind of movement, that kind of friction and all that would kill us. But if you're inside of your own encapsulated gravity, you wouldn't even know it.
And it's not fighting any of our stratosphere or our gravity forces or anything.
And then the weird thing that I was freaking out about was he said that type of propulsion system, when you looked at it, you wouldn't be able to see it because light bends around it.
Right.
And so it would be there, but you'd never know until it maybe turned off its propulsion system and became visible. I guess that's when they just kind of hover and then all of a sudden they're just gone.
Right.
And wow, it's crazy.
Right.
But yeah, I'm wondering how this new legislation, if it passes, is going to change things. And I also wonder if the government is just starting to release things slow so we get used to the idea that there are others out there.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I don't think they're necessarily going to release that part that there's other life out there. They're going to leave that for us to decide, I think.
Yeah.
But the universe is a big place, so there's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, our solar system alone is huge.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean it's infinite. I mean you'd never be able to figure it all out. There's just no way. Right. And for us to think that we're the only life forms out there, that's just kind of arrogant, I think.
Right. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, on YouTube or even just on regular photos, if you search, the Milky Way galaxy and it shows you where we're at. I mean, we're a speck of dust in the Milky Way galaxy.
That's crazy. Isn't it?
I mean, we're probably not even that, really.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's amazing to me to even, and also it makes you feel so insignificant as a human being because we're nothing here anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
I
to
feel
imagine
insignificant when I go out at night to like the deer lease or something. I look up at the Milky Way.
Yeah.
And go, oh my God.
Well,
Yeah.
It's funny because like when I've gone offshore fishing, I mean, you're nothing.
Yeah.
You're nothing out there.
Yeah.
Right.
The biggest ships in the world have gone out there and sank and like just like nothing.
I know.
So
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Have you ever been out offshore when the horizon disappears because the sky and the ocean are the same color?
No.
Oh, I've had that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy because you feel like you're in a bubble.
Yeah.
Just a big bubble. It's just endless. And
I've
there's
actually done that snorkeling like in Cozumel. You can see about 200 feet.
Right.
And if you go 500 feet from shore and go dive down, all you see is your own sphere.
Right.
Mm.
And you have to come up to go, where am I at? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
And that's where the barracudas are. And they come by and they look at you and they've got this look about them. They all kind of look the same way at you. They got their eye on you. You can tell.
Yeah.
And you can't tell if they're that big and they're 2 feet in front of you, or they're 9 feet long and they're 60 feet in front of you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
No, go ahead. That's good. So yeah, I'm curious what the future holds for UAPs.
Right.
And I've wanted to get somebody from MUFON on the show too, but I'm not sure if MUFON's a legitimate organization anymore, because what they're talking about doing in this legislation also is creating some congressional committees that would oversee the whole thing. And so all that database, I guess, that MUFON's built over the years would get either moved or just disregarded. And then, the Department of Defense would build their own.
Right.
Well, they've already got it though, I'm sure, but they would just add to it.
Yeah, I'm sure the government already has all that information, way more information than what MUFON probably has.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of just private people that do that on the side. Really, they don't do that full time. Very, very few people probably do. And then if the government wants to take over, I wouldn't trust anything that the government really released anyway or said about it.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like talking about. Two eyewitnesses about getting their own views and their own perspective of what actually happened. So I don't think the government would be forthcoming.
Yeah.
You know,
Probably not. How many shows have you done? How many people have you had on?
You know,
talk about
I
this
was
kind of thing?
counting. I think I've done right about 65, 66 shows.
Really? Yeah. So you're about even with us then, because we're
Yeah.
about the same.
Yeah, and that's within a 1 year time. You know.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's working hard, man.
Yeah, it's
You know, a lot of people
work.
don't realize how much work goes
Man,
into it.
finding guests and just
Yeah.
sorting out what I think is legit or just good information.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, a lot of people have experiences and encounters have been just like 2 seconds long, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can't really use that.
Yeah, I've never really had a UFO encounter, but I'd like to.
Yeah,
I just think I've always been too close to town, maybe.
yeah. I've actually had
Yeah.
2 myself. Me and my ex-father-in-law were fishing in Galveston. We were right on the jetties. And he's probably, I don't know, 40, 50 feet down to my right. And he points up at me. He goes, "Hey, Joe, look up there." And I look up to my left. And there's this round disc just floating right above us. And it's round. It's the typical disc that you ever see, like online. It's got like little half ball underneath.
Yeah.
That's picking up a cow or a person or whatever.
Right.
It's that typical kind of disc. And, it was maybe 300 feet above us. And I tell everyone all the time, a professional baseball player probably could have hit it with a baseball,
Wow.
And this thing was going so slow. I don't know how it stayed in the air. And then it was just gliding just so perfectly still, no wobble, no shake. And probably about 3 miles down is the little airport, and you could hear those little planes coming in.
Yeah.
This thing, they make no sound.
Yeah, I know where the airport's at in Galveston.
Yeah. And we got a great look at it. And it took probably about 5 minutes for it to get out of sight. So we got a good long look at it.
Wow. What
Yeah.
time was it when all this
It was probably about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And
Really?
the moon was out. It was a clear sky.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a full moon, but the moon was bright that night.
Yeah.
And so we got a great look at it.
Make any sound?
No sound at all.
Really?
Quiet.
Yeah.
Super quiet.
I have one encounter like that. And me and Mark Gregg, you remember Mark Gregg?
Oh, yeah.
It was probably 11 or midnight, and we were out near at the Addicts area on West Houston, Clay Road, toward Bear Creek, and it was actually toward town. And he was driving, and I saw this sphere look like a flying saucer, and it was. I couldn't tell how far away, but it looked like it was really far away, like maybe a mile away, kind of just sitting there. And as he's driving along, I said, "Hey, man, do you see that?" And he looked over and goes, "Yeah, what's that?" I said, "Hell, I don't know." We pulled over and rolled the window down so it wouldn't be a reflection or something. We thought, well, what's shining on this glass? And we're looking at this thing, and it would move across the field of vision just incredibly fast. And then now you're looking southeast, and then there it is, maybe a little further or a little closer. We watched this thing for about 10 minutes, and it just went zoop. It just went away from us until it disappeared. It never heard anything, and it was sphere shaped, and it had like a red line around it and a blue line around it.
Okay.
Years later, I was Googling UFOs, and I saw a common thread where that kind of thing was described in several different instances.
Right.
So other people have seen something like that. What it is, I don't know.
Right.
But we were just like, "You seeing this?" "Yeah, I'm seeing this." "We're going to tell anybody?" "No, we'll never tell anybody about that. Anyone believe us anyway,
And that's funny. I keep hitting this mic. Sorry.
You good?
That's a pretty common color, red and blue, and within the same craft.
He's heard it too.
Yeah. And I've got video that a friend of mine from Canada has sent me, and there's these red and blue lights just flying in the sky. Within the last month, maybe month and a half, I saw another light, and I thought it was a star. And I kept watching it, but instead of moving across the sky like that, it went like this. Then it made a right. Then it came back to the center. It made another right, and the whole time it was just red and blue the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
And about 3 months ago, I was at my friend's house out in Willis, and we were out doing Bigfooting, and we came back to his house, and it was late at night, and it was probably, I don't know, 12:30, and I was walking outside getting ready to go home, and as soon as I walked out the front door, I looked up, and I seen these 2 lights coming like this in the sky, and they got close to each other, and they stopped, and they just made a circle. They made about 2 or 3 circles, and then they took off in opposite directions again.
Wow.
And yeah, that was pretty weird. I don't know aircraft that can do that. And it was a perfect circle. And then
Yeah.
it just took off.
And it makes you wonder,
Right.
what are they doing? Because like Lazar said that the things that they had at Area 51, that he thought those were archaeological digs.
Okay.
And so they had nine different craft with, I think, 9 propulsion systems, if I'm not mistaken, which were all similar. But he said he thought they were old as in ancient. So if we've been visited for that long, they obviously mean no harm, or they've already done away with us.
Right.
They're obviously way more advanced than we are because
Maybe they're farming us.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Possible.
That's a possibility.
And you know whose explanation I dug more than anybody else's? Joe Rogan's, believe it or not. I know I've already mentioned him once in this thing. I shouldn't.
What did he say?
So here's his deal. He thinks that years and years and years ago, like 4 years ago, no, years and years and years ago, that they came and they maybe genetically interfaced a ape to build man, and that they've just been watching our progress ever since, and that maybe our God is them.
Right.
I was going to ask you that too.
Wow.
How
That
do you,
kind of shit blows my
how
mind.
do you square that kind of thing with religion in general, Christianity and the Bible specifically? That's pretty well spelled out. We're here by ourselves. We're made in the image of God. So how would anything else be going on?
Maybe that's the image that we were made in. These aliens, these extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, and
Yeah.
the Bible talks about, I forgot where it was at, but it talks about the chariot of fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was real big in the 70s.
Right,
I saw the movie and everything.
Yeah.
The Egyptians with the spacesuits on
Right,
and the whole
yeah.
bit.
Yeah, but it's just, it's like Joe Rogan was saying that he thinks that maybe what they did, the aliens just expedited evolution.
Right.
They just took the ape and instead of waiting for us to become man, they just expedited that
They
evolution.
manipulated our DNA. Yeah.
Manipulated DNA, and now they're just like we would watch a group of ants,
Yeah.
study them.
Right. And hopefully they don't just say, let's kill them.
Yeah. That's enough of that.
Did you see that guy that was interviewed that said he was abducted by the aliens?
Yeah.
And visited with them. They didn't hurt him or anything. They checked him out like a doctor would give you a physical, and they let him go. And they said, well, my goodness, where are they from? He goes, well, I think they were from Saturn. He saw the Saturn logo on a lot of stuff. He just figured that's where they were from. And they said, well, they must be really advanced, and they're more advanced than we are. He goes, oh, yeah, they're more advanced than we are. Mm-hmm. How far advanced do you think they are? He said about 6 weeks. Yeah, because they had double-edged razors. And it was about 6 weeks later here that they invented the double-edged razors.
I would venture to say a couple million years advanced.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But then again, it all depends on where they came from, and I can't remember the name of the star that Bob Lazar referred to. He referred to some place like Alpha Centauri or some shit like that. But, and it was interesting, the conversation, because he said more than likely they wouldn't have the same table of elements like we have here on this planet.
Right.
They have different elements, and so they're able to do different things, and maybe their advancement went a lot quicker than ours has, just because we have primitive elements here.
Yeah,
it's
that's
nuts.
what they had to work with.
Yeah.
We have oil to work with.
Yeah,
Right.
dirt.
And it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dirt,
It
everything
works.
came out of the ground.
It works differently. You
Yeah.
work it differently, and it's made more heat resistant or less so, more malleable, less malleable.
And who knows? Maybe they're fascinated by our fossil fuel. They're like, what the hell are these guys doing?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, or they look at it like, y'all still doing that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's
Right.
see, that'd be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
If they've already been there and they have that history, I just
Right.
don't think they do. I think it's just different for them. They're like, wow, that's weird, man. In order for them to make something go, they have to burn this and spit it
Yeah.
out the back.
Yeah.
It's all about energy and how you harness it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And while they've created some sort of a gravitational wave that just pushes them wherever they want to go.
A magnet
Yeah.
that never runs out.
Interesting,
Yeah.
and just super fast. I'm sure they laugh.
Oh,
I
I'm
would.
sure they laughing and guffawing at us all the time. Come here and look at this.
What if they don't have senses of humor, though? What if they look and they just get disgusted?
Well, I guarantee if they made us, they got a sense of humor.
Yeah. But that's weird to think that they possibly made us.
Right.
Because it doesn't, it does, the Bible is no longer valid at that point. Then it's just a book. And that's weird.
That scares a lot of people.
Yeah, to think that that religion would just be an obsolete thought.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that proof will ever come out, but if it does, man, a lot of people are going to be disappointed. And I'll be one of the first guys to look at Joel Osteen and go, sorry.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people look at Joel Osteen as the representative of religion and Christianity. At least not anymore.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty good following.
He's got a
man.
great following.
Yeah.
He's worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I never thought that he'd end up that way. I remember when his dad kicked it, and he was up there for the first time going, I'm not really sure what to do, but we're going to give it a shot. A couple of years later.
The summit.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, the knock against him is it's all feel-good Christianity.
Right.
Yeah,
I like it.
And
yeah.
you just be a good person and you'll get rich and be nice and say please and
God
thank
wants you to be rich.
Yeah.
And give me some of that money while you're at it.
Right,
That's it.
yeah. So before you get that Cadillac, your Cadillac's coming, but I got bills to pay too.
Did y'all hear about the $600,000 recently?
Yeah, the plumbers found.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said nothing. I was a plumber.
Yeah, no. What the
Fine.
hell, man?
Yeah.
Did you hear about all that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was
he
a
found
robbery.
He turned it in, and they've traced it back to that robbery. What do you think happened with that robbery? I think the robbery happened. They stashed it, and they were going to come back and get it, and the guy croaked or something.
Something happened.
Because that was 7 years ago.
But why hide it in the bathroom wall, man?
Because there's hatches in the bathroom wall for clean outs and all kind of different stuff. Little accesses to pipes and different things that only an engineer would know about.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think he was going to come back and get it, and got hit by a bus on the way home. And
Wow.
there it stayed. Yeah.
Yeah, that plumber was a dumbass.
I'd have put that right in my pocket.
I'd have said, look, I found $86 in the wall.
Do you want this?
I found some checks.
Yeah. There you go. I found some checks.
And never mind all this untraceable cash.
I can't come back tomorrow because I'm quitting.
Make
I'm
about
calling
30
in
trips
rich.
back and forth in my truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want me finding that kind of money. They're calling him a hero and all that stuff, but I bet he's digging a ditch today going, what the hell?
I think he got a
do?
$20,000 reward out of the whole
Oh, yeah,
thing.
I think he did. Yeah, that's awesome.
It took a few days of like, hey, man, what about me,
Yeah.
And he finally got a little something.
Damn, that's good.
So we went from UFOs to Joel Osteen somehow.
Maybe there's a connection.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Maybe one of the reptilians.
Right.
Who knows? Who knows? So what about, and I know you're really into the whole Bigfoot thing, and you had sent me a picture of a print that you got in Sam Houston National Forest?
Yeah, right.
Is that where that was?
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was in a creek bed, off trail,
Yeah.
a couple miles deep. And that's one of the places I like to look is anywhere near water, because every animal needs water. So
Right.
So that track I sent you was actually an 8-inch track.
Yeah.
But I've actually found a 3-inch track, 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
I found a 3-inch track, and it was way off trail too, and it was a little rectangle looking foot.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a human.
You're talking about a 3-inch foot?
Yeah, in the soft mud.
A baby Bigfoot?
Yeah. There's got to be a breeding population.
Well, I guess so. Yeah, they
Yeah.
came from somewhere and they're making more of them, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah. People have seen babies, little ones.
Well, look at this as a scale for 'em. Bigfoots, I've always heard, never met one,
Right.
about 7 feet tall.
Yeah, probably right about average, 7 feet tall. But
So a baby Bigfoot with a 3-inch foot, that would make him 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
That baby Bigfoot was only 9 months old, barely learning how to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They probably learn a lot faster than human does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have to.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
But they don't always walk on 2 feet. They're probably 4 feet. Probably is their preferred method of
Well,
locomotion.
I got
So kind of like that whole ape track.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I got a problem with that, and I'm sure you don't have a problem that I have a problem with that because that's what we're here for.
Right.
Of all the hunters and outdoorsmen, kayakers down the rivers in the middle of damn nowhere, why is there not any better photograph of Bigfoot except for that grainy picture from Washington State?
Well, for the most part, people don't walk around with a camera in their hand ready to snap.
Yeah, but there's game pictures
Right.
stashed out all over the place, and you're catching all kind of everything except a Bigfoot.
The popular opinion is that they know that these cameras are out there. I've seen hundreds of different photos of different animals going up to the camera. They know the camera's there. Raccoons, deer, coyotes, they'll go sniff the camera. They know the camera's there.
I've seen plenty of deer and
Right.
raccoons that did not know the camera was there
Right.
until the infrared goes off,
And that's
or even
another
the
thing.
flashlight.
We're pretty sure that they can see the infrared light, so they'll probably stay away from it.
Yeah.
People have gone out and used that as a way to keep them at bay. The infrared light, that's a pretty popular way to keep them at bay because there are aggressive encounters.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about some of those.
Everything from the rock throwing to actually bluff charges. So my friend that I was out there in Willis when I saw the lights, he was in a paranormal group, and they were out there doing some paranormal research, and this guy rolls up on them and is like, "What are you guys doing out here? Out in the middle of freaking nowhere, right?" Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh, you guys are looking for Bigfoot." He goes, "I'll take you to him." And he took him to this spot, and as soon as they got off the car, they were surrounded. They were getting howls and screams and stuff thrown at them. And even at that time, Walter was like, I still got to go see what's going on. Mm-hmm. And they were surrounded. And he walked down to the creek and he saw that the one he saw was 9.5 foot tall. And because we measured where he saw the top of the head at when we went back later on. And he said he was just peeking out over the tree at him. And he said that the guy that took him was like, just standing out there like nothing. He said, man, they were getting screamed and howl. They were making like cow noises at him and stuff, And
Wow.
yeah.
What were they wearing? I mean, tell me about how they dressed and.
Oh, they were just wearing regular clothes at that time, and so it wasn't until later on, that he starts. Don Walter, when he goes out to that location, he wears his.
I mean, what were the big feet wearing?
Oh, just nothing, just their hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was last November, a year ago.
So you think they're typical as what we've all seen, just big hairy ape-like body,
Yeah, and they're
over
different.
muscular,
Yeah,
maybe
well,
a little.
they're different types. Too.
Yeah, and a little bit different skeletal composition than a human has.
Yeah,
different, longer arms.
Yeah,
and
different
shit like
proportions.
that.
Yeah.
Did people think that is, for lack of a better word, like a missing link? Like a Neanderthal cousin or something?
Yeah, that's probably the most popular.
But smart enough to know.
Yeah, they're primates, so they're going to be smarter than most animals out in the woods,
Yeah, they've done a hell of a job staying hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question I posed last time was, how come there's never been any remains found? Because you'd think that you'd find skeletal structures or something like that.
I guess the explanation on that would be they do something with them, whether it's bury them or burn them or something.
The popular opinion is that they do bury them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they think that they do. Some primates do bury their dead.
Right.
Some canines bury their dead too.
Yeah.
So, but then again, like I think we talked about last time, I was out in Magnolia and this deer got hit, and 3 days later it was just skin and bones, literally skin and bones, just from the vultures alone.
Yeah.
And that was on the side of the road. So in a forest, there's a lot more
where
animals.
everybody's hungry.
Yeah, everybody's hungry.
All the way down to the little tiny bugs.
Yeah, the bacteria, everything, remains get scattered all over the place, So, and who knows? Maybe people have seen bones and just, that's just from a coyote, that's from a hog or whatever.
So, have you ever seen one?
Not full on, I don't think. I was out one day with my sister and my brother-in-law, and then with this other person I was seeing at the time. And we're walking, and she's up ahead, maybe 25, 30 feet in front of me. She's like, "Hey, come here." So I walk up to her, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And she goes, "Hey, look over there by that tree." She said, I saw something peeking out. And she was like a non-believer. Mm-hmm. She goes, "I saw something peeking out," and it got back behind the tree. So I'm starting looking, and I seen this orange flash of fur just go from one tree to the other tree. I said, "Yeah," I just saw it right there. She goes, No, over here." So she points to the other tree. So me and my brother-in-law went over there and looked around. We didn't see anything. And when we came back, she's like, "No." She goes, Whatever was out there was way bigger than you and Patrick, because I couldn't even see you because the brush was so tall, you know. And I'm 5'8", and so I asked her. I said, "So what did it look like?" She said that she heard a snap, like a branch snap, and she started panning from left to right. And when she got to that tree, she said it ducked back behind that tree, and she said it was gray, and it looked like really, really hairy gray, like, you know, long hair. And so I didn't tell anyone this story for a long time, but people that were going out in that area were seeing a big gray one. Come to find out that there was a big gray one in that area.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know what I saw personally as far as the orange flash of fur.
I wonder if there's different breeds.
There's at least 4 different types.
Yeah.
But there's probably more. But the one is like Patty, which is the Patterson and Gimlin film, though. It's from 1967. Then there's one that looks more like a canine, and then there's one that looks more like a Neanderthal, and then there's one that actually looks more like a big gorilla, basically.
Yeah.
More
I
gorilla
think
features.
Probably every continent has their own legend of Bigfoot, whether it's a Yeti or what's another name?
Janasqua, the
It's
Wendigo.
Sasquatch, yeah. And I think as far as
The
I know,
Yowie in Australia, yeah.
oh really?
Right, yeah.
I didn't know they had something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been lucky enough to talk to people, you know, from all over the world, really, and get encounters. And I really like people who like say, "Look, I never believed in this thing until I saw it for myself."
Yeah.
You know, and hunters, and it's funny, hunters. I've known hunters that say, "I'll never go back in the woods again." You know,
Just scared the shit out of
knowing
them.
that's out
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I've known people who like a police officer, just from what he heard, or and didn't even see anything, but he heard. He was like, he's like, I sold all my stuff. He says, I won't go back in the woods again, because whatever was out there scared him so bad. And he went out there with his. He has a canine. You know, he's a canine officer. I won't say what department he's with, but. Because he didn't want me saying that, because he's like, man, don't take away my dog if I tell him this story.
Right.
And but he also has a pit bull that's mean as hell, and he says he has to keep him on a leash. It's a she. He says she'll go after squirrel, hog, deer, whatever. She's eating people, other dogs.
Yeah.
He says, so I keep her on a leash, and she's mean as hell. He says one day he's walking out there, and she curls up between his legs, and she's like scared. And he's like, what the hell's going on with this dog? And he says all of a sudden he just got scared, and he hears these footsteps, and he's just listening and listening, and he gets his dog up and he's walking, and he hears the footsteps again. He stops, the footsteps stop. He takes one step and he hears one footstep. He goes, Joey, I got scared. He goes,
He's being stalked.
Yeah, yeah. He said, I took my gun out and I'm aiming it, and even before that he threw a rock in that direction. He said, Joe, if it had been any other animal, they would have taken off running, you know.
Yeah.
And then so after he told me that story, and because the way we started was he was telling me he would let his daughter run out in the woods, and he would let his canine go find her. And I told him to be careful, and I said, I don't know how you feel about this, but you know there are Bigfoot out there. And he told me, well, you know what? Since you told me the truth, I'm going to tell you the truth too. He goes, I ran out there like a scared little bitch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, and like I said, I've talked to a hunter about 2 years ago out in the San East Forest, and he told me, I'll never go out there again. He said, I never believed in these things.
Man, I've camped out there too.
Yeah,
So that's weird.
And,
I want to make friends with one.
I'm sure there are probably some that are friendly. People do have friendly encounters, you know. The native tribes say that they were exchanging with them or whatever.
Yeah, if you brought a box of Pop-Tarts to a group of these things, they'd follow you home.
Yeah.
They don't have toasters, man.
But you know, there's also that if you feed them and you stop feeding them, just like a bear,
Yeah.
you know, they get pissed off. They want food.
Oh yeah,
you know,
they'll eat you.
yeah. They associate you with food. And
Do they know if they're herbivores or carnivores?
They're probably both. I've talked to people who have seen them kill deer.
Yeah, see, if you find some remains, you can tell by
Man,
the
what does
teeth.
their sexual preference have to do with it, man?
We're talking salads or hamburgers here, dude.
Yeah. Say them or they. You know.
Right.
There you go.
It's a Yeti X.
There you go. Non-binary primate.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man. I talked to a guy. He actually lives out near Canyon Lake now, but when he was a kid, he lived up near Possum Kingdom, and he was.
That sounds like a nice place.
Yeah.
It is.
Awesome
Yeah.
Kingdom.
It actually really is a
Wow.
nice place. If you ever get a chance to go there, go
Yeah.
there. They have a really big 4th of July celebration. You can look it on YouTube. But he was like 13 or 14 years old, and he asked his mom one night if he can go fishing. It was late at night, and she was like, "Yeah, go ahead." A few hundred yards behind the house,
Yeah.
and they had those stadium lights, and he said all of a sudden these deer just come bolting out of the forest and running through the water instead of going around the little cove. They ran right through the water. He said, "Here comes this one out on 4 legs. Well, not on 4 legs, but on all fours." He grabs this deer from the hind legs, and he says he snaps his hind legs, and the deer's trying to get away, on his 2 feet. He can't get any traction. And then a bigger one comes out and kind of like starts like to corral him. Mm-hmm. And he says he stood up, and when he stood up, then they saw him stand up, so they stopped. They looked at him, went and picked up the one that was on the ground and broke his neck, and just walked off with it. Yeah.
So they're eating this raw, or you see little campfires out everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
People have seen him kill hogs. There was a hunter here in East Texas. He said that he was up in his tree stand, and he saw the hogs. And I don't think he was hog hunting. He may have been looking for deer that day. I don't think that's why he took a shot.
Yeah, it happens when you're deer hunting. A
Right.
group of hogs will walk
Right.
by.
But he saw something moving, and he said he looked and was running. It was on all fours and jumped out. He said it was a pretty big leap. I can't remember how far he said it jumped, but it was a very far leap, and smacked the hog up against the tree, and then put the hog over his shoulder. And as he's walking off, he turns around, he looks at the guy in the tree stand. So he knew the guy was there. Yeah.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. Well, after he hit the hog against a tree, he actually jumped, and he said he pounded on him with 2 fists and, killed him like that.
Just
Finished
beat him to death.
Yeah.
Or break him in half
Yeah.
and do whatever he's got to do.
Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there have been people who have been attacked like that too. One guy, he suffered broken ribs, and he said a big gorilla jumped him in the woods.
Wow.
Yeah. About 2-3 years ago, a friend of mine who's in law enforcement, he's really high up there. He called me and told me that a guy that lived out there in New Mexico, right along the Texas-New Mexico border, called him and told him that a small Bigfoot would come to his garden in his backyard and eat his stuff. So he was waiting out there one day. He was watering it, and he sprayed him with the water hose. Mm-hmm. Right now, he lives out there alone by himself, out in the country, middle of nowhere. He wakes up in the middle of the night. He has this stench in his room. He wakes up, and there's a big one standing at the foot of his bed.
He went and got his dad.
Yeah, and this was like 6 months later. Which primates hold a grudge.
Yeah.
And he came back. He came in his house, and he beat the hell out of him. And he was in the hospital for a long time. And it actually bit off one of his fingers or 2 of his fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see that police report.
There's not one. They told him a bear attacked him. Yeah. And
Now, if a bear would have attacked him, there wouldn't have been nothing left.
Yeah.
Once a bear starts, they don't stop.
Yeah.
I know that to be a fact.
That's a common thread too.
Yeah.
It's a bear attack, and I've talked to people who have had encounters, and when they make their police report, the police don't know what you saw was a bear.
Very seldom you get away from a bear.
Yeah.
Bear. I mean, once they start, that's it.
Yeah.
Especially if they get a taste of you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for
so-
sure.
Yeah, that's a pretty common thing. No, that's not what happened. That's not what you saw. You saw a bear.
Yeah.
You saw a bear.
Well, yeah, they're always going to blow it off.
Yeah,
to
running
do
on 2
something.
feet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Yogi Bear ran around on 2 feet, didn't he?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really a bear.
He had a hat, too. That's all he wore. Well, he had a tie and a hat.
That's right, he did have a tie.
Probably belonged to the guy he killed before.
He had a collar, too, didn't he? He had a collar.
He may
and
have had a
tie.
collar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a collar and a
The
tie.
collar,
yeah.
but no shirt.
I'm going to Google it.
The old Chippendale
Yeah.
Yogi Bear.
Chippendale Yogi Bear. That's crazy. So what's the most compelling guest that you've had on? Can you remember anybody off the top of your head that you think, damn, and that was just the best show, was compelling evidence?
Well, the guy I was talking to in Canyon Lake, he won't do any more interviews, but he was on my friend Will's show, and he's actually ran into him 3 different times, twice here in Texas and 1 in Colorado, and like I said, he was a non-believer, until that happened when he was a kid, and when he was in Colorado, he was hunting and he was going up. He actually shot a black bear the day before, And when he went back to camp to get his 4-wheeler, he came back. The bear was gone. Now he not only did he shoot and kill him, and dropped him right there, but he actually came and put another bullet in him just to make sure. He took pictures of it, came back with his buddies to help him load the bear up, and the bear was gone.
Yeah.
They saw impressions on the ground that looked like prints, but they couldn't really tell anything out. So
Wow.
the next day he was going out, and he said when that happened, that was what happened when he was a kid, and kind of came back into his mind. So he's walking up this hill the next day. He drives even further out, and he hears something coming up over the hill. He says, "Here he comes, the other big squatch," and he sees him. The squatch sees my friend. I'll call him Larry.
Okay.
So the squatch sees Larry, and he just looks at him. He's swaying side to side, which is a very common thing that they do too. He sways side to side, and he's looking at Larry, and he's tilting his head, just like that, like trying to figure out what Larry is, because Larry was all in camo. He also had the mask,
Okay.
and he kind of thinks that's kind of what saved him too, is that he couldn't figure out Larry. He couldn't see his face, couldn't see his eyes, so he had no idea what was going on, and he was swinging back and forth and just looking at him, and then he says he turns around, and when he turns around, he goes woo, and he just walks off.
Wow.
Yeah, and Larry actually peed himself.
Damn.
Yeah, he actually peed himself, and you hear that too. People will tell you, I pissed myself, literally pissed myself.
Yeah.
It's
It's crazy that they're vocal too, because I was curious as to where they were. I know that most primates are vocal,
Right.
but they prefer to stay silent, I guess.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
I
hear
wonder if it was a migration too, because when I was
Yeah.
a kid, all the stories were in the Northwest
Right.
of Bigfoot,
Right.
Canada,
Washington.
Washington, all those places, and I wonder if there's been some migration for one reason or another, and they've ended up down here.
Right. Well, no, there is thought that they do migrate.
Yeah.
That they do migrate. Maybe
Too
the
cold
ones,
up in Canada.
Yeah.
Fuck, I gotta
Well,
go.
the ones down here in the South, you kind of get reports all year round.
Yeah.
It doesn't get that cold, but they definitely see them up there in Canada.
Yeah.
And-
Well, I've done a little research, and it turns out you're right. Yogi Bear has a collar as well as a hat and a
There you
tie.
go.
So
crazy.
everybody that was kind of wondering with me, yeah.
the old Chippendale over there.
That's it.
But,
Well, thanks for that research, Mark.
You're welcome.
That's,
thank you.
We're
that's
here
why
to
I
bring
keep them on the show, man.
bring the hard facts to our viewers.
That's right. So, how's your show going? Everything going all right?
Yeah, man, it's going great.
Yeah, you're liking it?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Getting a lot of good guests, and like I said, not just within the Bigfoot world, but the paranormal world, the UFO world. Had a guy on there talked about remote viewing.
Now, what's remote viewing?
Basically, where you can see another part of the world. It's not
Okay, yeah, the CIA had a remote viewing
Right,
program for a
right,
while.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot what they called it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember what they call it.
Slapstick or something. I
Yeah.
think Operation Slapstick or some
Right,
shit like
yeah.
that. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, and a gentleman by the name of Ingo Swan, he was actually like the best ever.
Mhm.
And he actually said he saw bases on the other side of the moon.
Yeah.
And so that was a pretty interesting show.
Yeah, and there's been some documented crimes that have been solved with remote viewing.
Mhm.
As weird as that seems, but I guess it's possible,
Right.
you know. And so you had a guest on that was, and he could do that, or
Right. Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He claimed he could do it. Whether or not he could do it, actually prove it or not, I guess a whole different ball game. But
Yeah.
I think the CIA has it on their website. If you go through all the right files, you'll find it.
And I wonder if it's something you have to go into a trance to do.
Yeah, it's a lot of meditation involved, and he claims anyone can do it with enough,
Really?
with enough meditation, enough training, enough patience. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we had a paranormal group on this channel actually that had a medium, and she had come in and they did a paranormal investigation actually in this room, and because I had some experiences going on in here, and she went into a trance, and I sat right here and watched,
Right.
and that was a weird deal, because it wasn't anything like I expected it to be, But yeah, she went to a trance and started talking to the spirit, and
That was one of those-
got information that no one would know how to get.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Stuff specific to the room, stuff specific to some of my instruments. I mean, I was like, what the hell? I never told her that. I never told anybody that. So,
Yeah.
how? But Yeah, and so I thought that was an unusual experience. I kind of run it off to be lucky, but it couldn't have been.
Spring Paranormal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a very weird story, and it actually has a tie into tonight. A friend of mine called me because I was actually going to mention her that she had talked to me at one time. So it was funny that she actually called me on the way up here, and it's funny I hadn't talked to her in months, probably 8, 9, 10 months.
Okay.
And 2 years ago, I had an incident that happened, and she called me right away. She's like, "Hey Joe, is everything okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." She told me she had these abilities, and she's like, "Did this happen over the weekend?" I'm like, "Yeah, it happened." And she went into detail about it. The next day, a friend of mine was like one of my best friends, Jeremiah, not your Jeremiah, another friend named Jeremiah. Him and Stacy. Jeremiah called me up and was like, at the time he was in South Carolina. He's in New York now. At the time he was in South Carolina, he goes, "Hey, Stacy's really worried about you." I'm like, "Oh yeah?" And he said, "Yeah, she's really worried about you. She's sick in bed actually." He says, "We don't tell anybody this stuff, but she's a psychic, He says, and she wants to talk to you. I'm like, "Okay, I'll talk to her." So man, I talked to her on the phone, and she told me the same thing that my other friend Mary told me. I mean, everything that happened that weekend, and I was like, yeah, it was just crazy, I mean, and Mary lives in San Antonio, and then Stacy lives in South Carolina, and I don't tell anybody. I'm really, really personal. If you look at my Facebook, there's not a lot of personal stuff that goes on.
Kind of gets to a point where you're going, this can't be a coincidence, right?
Right. And I mean, and they both nailed it. And like I said, it was just funny, that Mary called me on the way up here. I hadn't talked to her in months. I don't know if that meant anything, but when she called me, I saw her on the caller ID, and I was driving here,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Holy cow, man, she's calling me."
Well, have you ever had any prophetic dreams?
I don't know.
You never had a dream that came true?
Nothing really big, anything major, maybe, I dreamt that I was, going to a wedding or going to a party, and a few days later, I wanted to go to this wedding or a party. So nothing really, really, that I would call prophetic, just,
When I was young, I had several dreams that actually came true.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, that was just too unusual. They didn't, it turned out to where they didn't really mean anything. And at least at the, looking at it directly, it didn't mean anything.
Right.
But for some reason, I was able to peer into the future and see something that came to fruition. I thought that was weird.
Right.
And I thought that maybe that would continue, and it didn't as I got older. So the older I got, the farther away I think I got from that.
Right.
Yeah.
And in my defense, I rarely dream anywhere, or at least remember my dreams if I do, So since my dad passed away in 2012, I only had 3 dreams about him, but they were all so real. They were so real.
Yeah, the dreams about loved ones were always really,
So I don't know if those meant anything or not, but
visitation. They're coming back to see you.
I think so. I do think so. I think my dad was around for a couple of years when I was going through a hard time,
Probably so.
Yeah. I actually lived outside of San Antonio from 2018 to 2020, and while I was there, I just felt that my dad was around. And one day I was upstairs, and I was throwing down some clothes to my daughter because she was washing clothes. "Hey, wash this. Throw this in the washing machine for me." And there was a light switch, right against the wall, and I heard it flick on, and I heard the light come on. Well, I saw the light come on. I was just like, "What the hell is that?" And I just kind of thought, man, that's probably my dad. So fast forward a couple of years later, I'm back in Houston, and I'm at my mom's house, and I'm telling her about this. I'm like, this happened to me. The light switch came on, and as soon as I'm talking about that, boom, the light switch comes on in the kitchen, and we both heard it and saw the light come on.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that was my dad.
That would freak me out a little bit. Even if it was my folks, I'd still probably get freaked out.
And when I was married, the house that I lived in, that was a crazy house. We had footsteps. We saw figures. I got jabbed in the ribs one time when I was getting ready for work. My daughter got poked in the ribs one time too. My youngest one got tapped on the shoulder. My son, he had just graduated high school, so he was getting ready to go to the Marine, so he was just sitting on the couch watching TV. And he called me at work. He said, "Hey, Dad, something weird just happened." I'm like, "What happened?" He said, "I saw this figure out of the corner of my eye, and I looked. It was a smoky gray figure, and I could tell it was a person." He goes, "And it reached out with its hand, with its fingertip, and it just barely touched him on the arm. He said when it touched him on the arm, it disappeared, but all the hair on his arm and just stood up.
Yeah. Yeah, I had some encounters like that in an
Right.
apartment I lived in with my first wife. And I think it was actually attached to her somehow. Maybe it was in the apartment to start out with, but yeah, we just kept having some weird things happen. I'd wake up and hear noises in the living room, and I'd go out and we had a rocking chair, and the rocking chair would be rocking. Or like a glass that we left out on the table would be turned over upside down. And just all this odd crap, you know. So went and told her mom about it, and she said to open up the Bible to the 23rd Psalm and leave it in the living room overnight, and that's supposed to ward the thing off somehow. And we went to sleep that night. I remember we went to bed about 10. It was early. I had to go to work or something the next day. About 10:30, you know when you're kind of asleep but you're still awake, but you're in like what do they call it? Alpha.
Right.
You know, when your brain's in alpha and you're not really here but you are. All of a sudden I heard bam, and we looked at each other, and she goes, "Go check it out." So I went out in the living room, and the Bible was closed, like something slammed it shut.
Right.
And yeah, we kept having experiences in there until finally there was actually an altercation. So the thing was in our closet, and it was rattling the clothes hangers that were in there, and it literally pissed me off. I was like, man, I can't live like this anymore. So I went into the closet, you know, in just my PJs, and turned the light off, shut the door, went in there, fist up, said, all right, let's go.
Right.
You know, and that was the end of it.
Right.
As soon as I said, I'll challenge you, one of us is leaving, you
It
know.
didn't get what it wanted from you. It wanted to scare you. So this guy's not scared.
Yeah.
He wants to kick my ghost ass. Get out of here.
I was really pissed. And I, you know, used a lot more expletive language than I'm using now. But yeah, I was pretty much really mad, and I challenged it. And after that, we didn't have any more problems.
Right.
But we moved right after that too.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Well, that house that I was living in, it still has activity to this day. You know.
really?
Yeah. My son actually
Yeah.
had the door rattle, like someone was trying to get into his bedroom door while he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those spring paranormal people we talked to said that a lot of these ghosts, or whatever you want to call them, spirits, they're attached to a certain piece of ground, or maybe there was a house there before that house
Or
was
an
there.
item. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and they can't leave, or they don't want to leave for some reason. They're just in that area, you know.
Right. And that house, it only belonged to one previous owner. You know, and they died they were like 96, 97 when they passed away, and that was their house. They bought it right after World War II. You know.
Yeah. They die in the house?
They both went to hospice.
Yeah. Okay.
But what was funny was I actually called my cousin. He had to do some remodeling to the restroom and to the hallway, and when he came in, he looked at everything. He's like, "Okay." We were standing in the kitchen, and he's like, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do tomorrow. We're gonna start the demo." And he starts explaining everything. And while he's talking, he looks down at his arm, and he actually looks down at his arm like that, and he looks at my cousin who's standing like 6-7 feet away from him, and he kind of looks at him, comes back, he's talking to us again, and he looks at it on his arm again. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing to my arm?" My cousin's like, "I'm standing way over here. I'm not touching you." So my other cousin Manuel, that's his name, Manuel. He actually stands in the corner of the kitchen so he can see everyone in the room. And it's funny. Me and my family, we were looking at each other. We're like, okay, something's going on here, right? And he's talking to us again. And he looks at his arm, and he walks across the kitchen to me. He says, "Come here, man. Give me your arm." So I held out my arm. He grabs my arm. He like squeezes it super tight. He said, "This is what it feels like. It feels like someone's grabbing my arm." So we told him, well, this is what goes on in the house. We told him all of our experiences. The next morning, he comes in there. He's like, "Hey, come here." I'm like, "What's up?" And he sticks out his arm, and he's got these 4 fingerprint bruises on his arm.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I mean, you could see them. There were bruises. Yeah, he's like, "Dude, somebody was grabbing me on the arm." I said, "Well, I've heard that too. When you start doing remodeling, they don't like that."
Yeah.
So I think that whoever was there,
Don't move that wall.
Yeah,
That's my favorite wall.
yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it causes interference somehow.
Yeah.
You know?
But they still want change, probably. You know, that's their house.
Yeah, I'm just not so sure if they're on the same plane.
Yeah,
You know, I think that that maybe they can see some of the things that we see, but they're just on a different plane. And
Right.
so they exist at the same time, just on a different parallel or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, they're just beyond the veil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is even more scary.
Yeah.
You know. I always go back to motive and capability. What's their motive and what's their capability? If their motive is just to scare me, then whatever, that's not a big deal. But if their capability is possibly being able to murder me, then I'm not happy about that.
Pushing you out a window or something.
Yeah.
So
And, I had a guy, I used to talk on the radio, Kilo Charlie 5, Delta Whiskey India. Anyway, I talked on the radio for a long time. Had a buddy that he was a nuclear physicist, and he was actually one of the guys that helped to bring about a lot of our weapons of mass destruction. Smart dude, called himself Max, and his name actually was John Campbell, and unfortunately he died from a stroke years ago. But he had a theory about suicide, and he said that he thought that it was possible that spirits, or whatever you want to call them, can force you to kill yourself.
right.
Right. And give you an example, my sister-in-law, who we miss terribly, she was all fine, everything was good in her life and all that. She gets up in the middle of the night, goes into the bathroom, and I think from what I heard, she took the cord off a set of mini blinds and somehow managed to hang herself in the bathroom of her own house. And her husband found her when he woke up the next morning, my older brother. And nothing, no validation to it, no reason why. Everything seemed to be going well for her. So why would somebody, and you hear stories like that,
Right.
of people who just out of nowhere kill themselves, shoot themselves, whatever. And I wonder if it's possible if a spirit could say, I'm sick of your shit. I think I'm done with you.
Right. No,
You know?
it's a good possibility, and I think it actually does exist. I talked to a woman outside of Austin. Her husband committed suicide, but like within the previous 2 or 3 months prior, he kept telling her he was seeing this demon. That there was a demon in the house, and he was seeing it. But they were kind of like, you're depressed or whatever. He was like, no, there's a demon in this house. Well, he winds up killing himself. 2 or 3 months later. Shortly after the funeral, she says, I'm laying on the couch, and she's depressed at this point. She has 3 kids, and she's like, her kids were still little at the time. What am I going to do and stuff like that? She falls asleep on the couch. She wakes up. She hears some noise, and she goes, Joe, there was that damn demon in the house. She goes, I saw him.
Wow.
Yeah. She goes, I saw him, and she goes, we moved out.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else can you do? Try to split and get away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, and she never had any issues after that. But she goes, I think either it was attached to that house or whatever. Or for whatever reason, they started to come around and messing with her husband, and she goes, so I know my husband didn't just commit suicide just because.
Yeah. John Campbell also had another theory, called it the experience of everything, which I thought was cool.
Okay.
And he said, so in his theory, you have to experience everything before you can move away from this realm.
Right.
So you live as a short guy and you die. Then you come back as a tall guy. You got to be, a guy that murders people. You got to be a guy that gets murdered. You got to be retarded. You got to be a musician. You got to be rich. You got to be poor. You got to be famous. You got to be fat. You got to be skinny. You have to live all experiences before you can leave this realm. And if you think about that, and if you believe in reincarnation at all,
Right.
Wow,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how many I've already done, if that's a possibility. But
Right.
sucks.
What's funny is that I've never heard that particular theory, but I've heard people who have had past life regressions, and they've always lived I don't say always, but a lot of them have lived different lifestyles.
Yeah.
Some were high, like royalty. Some were peasants.
Yeah.
Some were slaves. Some were. So that is interesting. But I've also talked to people who will tell you they lived in different star systems on different planets.
Yeah. See, that's crazy.
There's a real popular one right now of a little boy who was claimed he was from Mars. He was a young kid. He was like 7, 8 years old, talking about Mars, talking about stuff that most 8-year-olds just would not know. Everything from technology to what happened millions of years ago, and Yeah, it was just very very strange, you know. And his mom actually moved him out because, you know, people were like, your kid's crazy.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't think the kid was crazy. The kid probably had a different life.
Yeah.
At one time, but yeah.
I think I may have had one, and the reason why, when I was a kid, I remember I had vivid, and I still have the memories today, but they're not as vivid as they were when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
But memories of living in a high-rise building, but not something you'd think, wow, that's got to be luxurious. This was more poor, you know, back in, it seemed like maybe the 50s or 60s or something, maybe the 50s before I was born, but a high-rise building. And I worked, I drove a bread truck, you know, and my memory is driving this bread truck down. You remember where the old SPCA used to be? Right near the Heights?
Yeah, I know exactly what it's
Yeah, you know those big silos right there?
Yeah.
Well, I was driving down that road, and a nuclear bomb goes off. And I don't remember anything after that. I guess that was the end of it.
Right.
But I remember asking my parents, did we live in a high-rise? At one time, I was like, no. You know? I said, well, did I used to drive a bread truck? She's like, no. You're a little kid. You can't drive anything. You know, she just told me I was stupid and thumped me on the head, and that was the end of that, you know? But I remember I used to sit and think about that a lot.
Yeah.
I used to think about, man, I know I drove a bread truck. I can remember how it feels, how it sounds, you know, the whole deal.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I remember living in that high rise.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain some shit like that?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm insane.
Right.
You know, I don't know.
There was another case. I don't remember if it was Iran or if it was Iraq, but a little boy, he lived in a small village, and he told people that he used to be this other little boy that was killed in a couple of villages over.
Yeah, I read that story actually.
And,
that,
I mean, he named
ago.
the guy, he named
yeah.
the location.
Yeah.
You know, and they went and they found that guy, and he wound up confessing to killing the little boy. They even took him to the remains right where the little boy said it was at.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know?
Yeah, pictures and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's just crazy. So
That is crazy.
So I believe in it, you know.
Yeah.
I really do. I've heard enough stories, you know, and you know, people. A lot of them seem to have, I guess, unresolved issues.
Yeah.
And when they go through these regressions, it's like, this is why you have these issues, you know, and it'll make sense for them.
Well, as you know, my dad was a hypnotherapist
Right.
for decades, well respected in the Houston area, and you know, he helped people get to a point where they could concentrate and focus, whether it was losing weight, not smoke, better grades, you know, and all that's all in your subconscious as long as you can unleash it. But they got off a little bit in the age regression, and he did a few experiments, and man, I wish he would have continued with that. And wrote case histories and books on that kind of thing, because there's a whole lot to that. Somebody with issues that are deep-seated, that they're not really consciously aware of, you can take them back, all the way back. You know, when you put them in under a hypnotic state, you're still conscious and aware, but you can remember things that you don't normally consciously remember, and go back, and you can ease them back to 10 years old, 9 years old, where you lived, and you can bring them on back, and it's not a thing you do in a hurry.
Right.
But you'll say, how do you feel here? And maybe when they're 3, something terrible happened. And, you know, they'll kind of have to go through that again. But you can record that and play it back for them. Or tell them that, you know, you can remember that, and you're going to cope with it and deal with it and lock it up and put it away, and you'll know it's there. But, you know, and you can help people deal with those kind of things. There's a lot to that age regression therapy.
Yeah.
So I wish he'd have done more of that.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we block stuff out of our minds all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to, because, I mean, your hard drive's only so big. You know, you only take so much.
Yeah.
So what's the future hold for Beyond the Woodline?
Well, I'm gonna get more into. I think we talked about that last time too. I'm gonna get more into like the true crime. I want to get a lot more veterans on the show and start talking about their experiences in the military. You know, both good and bad.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I want to do that, and you know, get some first responders on there too, and talk to them about their experiences. And
That's a good idea.
yeah, you know, just kind of let the public know what these guys go through and
Yeah.
what they see as a result of our crazy ass actions.
Sure.
Whether it's
What the government asked them to do.
right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these guys get a bad rap.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to talk to a lot of the paramedics too. So we can get their insight onto what they see on
Yeah.
a daily basis. I'm sure these
Yeah.
guys have some crazy stories.
I
but
know
it's-
firemen see a lot of
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not necessarily to get the story, but to get, why we should be nicer to each other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, unfortunately,
Right.
a lot of horrible stuff that
They
happens to
see
us.
the worst of what happens.
Yeah, the worst
to-
of humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Policemen, same thing.
Right,
They get called every time something terrible's happening.
Yeah.
Spend all your day, dealing with terrible stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to do a lot more of that stuff, and I'll always have the paranormal and the Bigfoot and the UFO stuff on the show too. But I want to,
Cool.
get more into that. And
So what was your first show like?
my first show was a conspiracy theory.
Really?
Yeah, it was about conspiracy itself and just how it affects us on a daily basis, and and it can happen on a small scale in our own little world. Whether it's at
Yeah.
work or home, there's a conspiracy. People are conspiring, or it can happen at a government level, or
Right.
So that was the first show I did.
Who was your guest in that? Do you remember?
His name was Rich Wheeler. He's
Okay.
actually been on my show twice. We talked about the conspiracy show with him, the first one, and then later on down the road, we talked about what's that drug that Hollywood supposedly uses or allegedly uses to keep you looking young. I forgot what the name of that drug is.
I wish I could get it.
Yeah, and well, it's like really expensive.
Right.
Yeah, and supposedly the way it's extracted is by these people when they get under this extreme fear that I don't know, it's a pheromone or whatever you want to call it, and they extract that. That's part of what people think about with all the missing people in the world. All over the globe. That's what they're used for, to scare the hell out of them. But of course, extract this. And, yeah.
Wow.
Big business.
Yeah, and that's part of I forgot what it was called. And over the last couple of years, supposedly there's been a shortage, and that's why
Yeah.
so many people look so bad now in Hollywood.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And do you know what episode that was?
I don't remember what episode that was. God, I wish I remembered it.
I'll
But
have to look
yeah,
at
it
it
was a
and
good
see.
episode. And Rich is one of these guys
Yeah.
that does his research.
Yeah.
He does his research really, really well.
Cool.
And, yeah, he was
How long you been doing Beyond the Woodline?
about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, right about a year. And I've had a witch on the show. She talked about the witchcraft and a lot of the misconceptions that go on.
That's
with that.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew a Wiccan, which is kind of the same thing.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
it-
What-
it-
She
what the
scared
hell's
me,
a
man.
Wiccan?
Wiccan is religion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like witchcraft religion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was really hot, and I had all kind of ideas about her.
She turned into a frog.
Yeah, dude.
Well, that
Don't
thought crossed
go-
my mind
yeah,
about the
don't
time
go
I made
jacking
my
with that.
exit. I don't know where she's at now. Scared me.
Yeah, I bet.
I've had a woman who was abducted, by aliens.
Really?
Yeah, that was a good episode. She was actually, taken as a
Yeah.
small child, and another race came and saved her. The Nordic people.
Wow.
Yeah, came
That's
and saved
crazy.
Her. Yeah, she says she remembers hearing the explosions, and
Vikings?
well, they call them Nordic because they're very tall, good-looking people. Long blonde hair and blue eyes, and very much looking like us, except a lot better looking.
Well,
Yeah.
have you ever heard of the Cash Landrum incident?
Is that the one here in Texas?
Yeah, here in Texas. Actually, right around the corner from here in
Right,
Plum
right.
Grove.
Yeah.
And the grandson, I think his last name is Landrum, is he lives in Dayton somewhere. I'd love to find that dude and get
Yeah.
him on the show. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Because he's got to remember some of that,
Mhm.
that happened. But look that one up, the Cash Landrum incident, and just Google it. It'll pop up.
That's where they were riding in the car. He was a little kid.
He was a little kid in the
Orb
back
came
seat.
down, and everybody got a sunburn.
Everybody got a really bad sunburn, but actually there were like some parts of their skin were almost third-degree burns. And then Betty Cash and God, I can't remember her first name, Mrs. Landrum. They both ended up dying from radiation-related illnesses later on in life.
Yeah.
Leukemia, shit like that. So, but I mean, the description of everything, and they even sued the United States Air Force because the Air Force came in and said, "Hey, it was us," and so they sued the Air Force.
Okay, so if it was you,
And yeah, And that was a big deal. Went on forever.
We got to look for that guy, and if he wants to talk about it,
I'd love to
give
find him. Yeah.
Give him a forum to do that.
It would actually be worth taking a trip out to Dayton and asking around, because I've looked on Facebook, I've done everything I could, and I know he's still in Dayton somewhere.
Yeah.
But it'd be worth it, man. It'd be worth the trip.
We'll
So
work
if
on
anybody
that.
knows that kid who's now probably 45 years old from Dayton, by the last name of, I believe it's Landrum, it might be Cash, but I'm not sure. Yeah, get him to call me. Right on. Get him on the show, and we'll talk about that. We'll have Joe come back out, and we'll grill that kid.
We won't grill him.
He won't know what happened to
He
him.
may be out of pocket because he's tired of being hounded too.
Probably so.
We'll find
But
out.
I think he's done one interview before, and I think it was on 2020, and it was way back,
I remember that show.
in like the 75, 80, something like that.
Yeah.
And they did a good job. They always did a good job in their investigative journalism, so it was pretty good. Well, Joe, I appreciate you coming out, man. Had a good time having you
me
on the
too,
show.
man.
Yeah, it's good meeting you,
And,
man.
Yeah, good meeting you too.
I hope the channel does well. Keep working it. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing a great job. I had a good time on the show, and I checked out a few of the others. If I had more time, I'd check them all out, but
Right.
it's just going to take time to do it.
Yeah.
But good to have you on the show. We had a good conversation. And is there anything you want to say to the viewers? I mean, you looking for subscribers? You looking for more views? Anything you could say to direct those guys? Maybe give them some more ideas about what else you've had on your show?
Yeah,
Just a quick brief.
The main thing I want to say to people is, like, when you have these strange encounters, there are people like me that will listen to you. That's a lot of people don't know who to turn to, but I'll definitely listen to you. You can find me at beyond.woodline@gmail.com, and man, I'll get in touch with you. I'll talk to you. Don't ever be afraid or think I'm going to judge you or think you're crazy, because I've certainly had some crazy encounters myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anybody who's sane has had crazy encounters, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, Mark, you got any closing statements, man? I appreciate the fine birthday gifts. That was awesome. I
Some
didn't
fine cutlery for the rogue porcupines out here.
expect that.
And I hope you appreciate your 50-cent piece.
Oh,
with
absolutely.
Founding father Ben Franklin right there, who is
Right on.
also known for another quote: "Always do your own research, and don't believe what you hear on the internet."
Really?
Ben Franklin,
That's cool.
1783.
That's it. Bald only in the front.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got, man.
All right. For Mark Hogan, I'm Hank Batt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and we're out. All right.